In this land, death is not the end. Our souls pass away into the mists, and to heaven they cannot ascend. And though we now pray to the one God, we still make offerings to our spirits. Only one night they travel back, guided by lights and altars, and received with gifts. Among them, one with two edges, a lily, so delicate and sharp it can cut between life and death and be praised by all saints of the old and new world alike. Within the clouds of the mountains, on the branches of the forest, the sacred lily grows. Only after the dusk of Dia de Muertos, the lily reveals from hiding and guides those gone to come back, lily of all saints. Mexico is one of the most beautiful and diverse countries in the world, marking the beginning of the biogeographical region of the Neotropics. Here, the Sierra Madre Oriental, Sierra Madre Occidental, and the Trans-Mexican Volcanic Belt give Mexico its immense range of habitats. From dry forests and rainforests to misty cloud forests, each blossoming with unique life. And yet, among these amazing communities, orchids stand out as the most beautiful. Our journey begins in Veracruz, home to the Lily of All Saints, Lelia Anceps. This coastal state, with its tropical climate and the Sierra Madre Oriental, provides ideal conditions for epiphytic orchids, which use trees for support, absorbing water and nutrients from the air and rain. Lelia Anceps was first described in 1836 by John Lindley in Edwards's Botanical Register. Native to Veracruz, it is known for its lilac flowers, with rare color forms being highly sought after. Lelia Anceps's and other orchids' popularity began during the colonial era, driven by European expeditions seeking exotic plants. This demand led to a widespread collection in the wild, and as a result, wild populations in Veracruz have sharply declined. In Huatusco, drone monitoring revealed a population density of only 100 specimens per square kilometer, a concerningly low figure for this species. We now head north to Alto Luceros's wet, deciduous forests, where we studied orchids for years. Lelia Anceps was easily spotted among the epiphytes on fallen branches along the way, which lead us to our destination.
This is the heart of the population that we've been looking for. Here there's also lots of orchids and epiphytic species of other families. This is a perturbed deciduous forest. It's sub-deciduous as the amount of rainfall here is slightly higher than in other deciduous forests, and the diversity here is just incredible. We are finally face to face with what we were looking for. This is Lelia Anceps, a particularly large specimen not quite colorful, but extremely beautiful. I can definitely see why throughout hundreds of years people have loved this plant here in Mexico and abroad. This is the Lily of All Saints. As it is commonly known here, and it is collected for today to adorn altars and to remember those who have passed on, and a way of showing our appreciation through the beauty of this exquisite flower. This is the edge of the Anceps habitat, or at least the part that's less disturbed and more protected. Now, from here on out, you'll find petals and even bits of plant that have been cut down by humans in the effort of cleaning and preparing for cattle, which is the main activity and the main source of habitat destruction of this area. Even when this happens, the population here is quite stable, and I don't think there's a major threat. But if these activities expand, we will have a very serious problem at our hands.
Using the drone, we can see just how much farmland has replaced natural habitat. Almost all of the level ground is now pasture for cattle, known locally as potreros, leaving only the steep cliffs and rugged terrain relatively untouched. These hard-to-reach areas still host most of the region's biodiversity, and they provide a safe haven for epiphytes such as Lelianceps, which attach to tree trunks and rocky outcrops instead of relying on soil. It's worrying to see how far agriculture has spread, but these marginal habitats offer some hope for the orchids. And after we trek deeper into the forest, we finally spot her again.
This forest is no short of surprises. This is a Myrmecophila, an orchid more commonly found at lower elevations near the sea, but apparently it is warm enough for this orchid to survive. Unfortunately, it has grown so big that the weight has broken this branch from this oak, and we have to take it out from here and relocate it. Usually Myrmecophilas are full of ants in the inside, which act as defense and also to provide nutrients to the plant. This is a very beautiful specimen, and it doesn't seem that it has fallen from a long time ago, so we should be able to relocate it, and it's pretty healthy aside from a few rotten bulbs, but it should be perfectly fine. Something very vital to all epiphytes, and especially orchids here in Mexico, is the sporophyte, the host tree that will support the orchid throughout its life. And there's many different requirements that must be met for the orchid to develop properly. Here in Mexico, by excellence, the oak is the host of most epiphytic orchids. Here we have a species of medium-sized oak, and on its rough bark it can support fungi, algae, different lichens, and orchids, of course.
After exploring the forest, we found ourselves lost within the thick fog. Fortunately, some farmers showed us the right path and allowed us to continue our journey, now south to the city of Tepetlan. Tepetlan features a mix of subdeciduous oak forest, cloud forest, and tropical forest. We observed many more species here than in previous locations, although Lelianceps did remain scarce. Local authorities gave us permission and help to photograph these orchids in their habitat. During our visit, we also spotted several Epidendrum parkinsonianum specimens, some reaching over 3 meters in height, alongside a few Lelianceps. We now leave Veracruz and head south on a nighttime journey towards the state of Oaxaca. It's 6:30 in the morning, and it was just absolutely impossible to sleep last night. There was live music, there was animals, fireworks, just so much noise, and it was so cold. Usually night temperatures here are about 20 something degrees. Well, last night they were about 5-6 degrees, and that might not sound very cold to you, but it's really cold when you have this tropical weather. We're in the secret location in Oaxaca State, and we're trying to find some very interesting species. Some of the most interesting species in Mexico, I would say, so I really hope it's worth it. I'm already tired, I don't feel good, everything kind of hurts. But we'll crack on, we'll see what happens. The plan today is to go to some mountains, take some drone footage, see what's out there, and try to make some dissection plates. Try to get some good data from here, and hopefully some cool shots as well. See you in a bit. The northern region of Oaxaca is relatively uncharted, combining a surprising range of habitats: arid, cloud, tropical, and mixed forests, many of which remain only partially studied. We were drawn here by reports from a colleague biologist with one goal: to find a specific mountain believed to shelter a species among the most extraordinary in all of Mexico. And although we had prepared extensively, nothing could have prepared us for what we were going to see.
almost halfway up to our destination, which is this mountain. We've been walking through cattle farms, a couple of rocky outcrops, and I think we're about halfway up. We can see those beautiful mountains over at the distance, full of epiphytes and lithophytes on those exposed cliffs. We're finally deep within the mountain, and we're already finding so many orchids. Congoras, Hansidinae, Stenopias. Check this out. This is Oncidium sotuanum, very fragrant purple orchid. And we've also already found this amazing Masdevallia. And from Mexico there's really not that many Masdevallias. It could be something new, a new variety of the common Masdevallia, but there's not a lot of records of this genus around this area. Look at this. It's quite dark. Penumbral conditions. Look at this logged tree full of Brustechia pseudopygmaea and Brustechia cochleata. There's a flower actually. I didn't notice that the first time around. Look at that. Very small, very delicate white flowers, probably fly pollinated. And there's a couple of other epiphytes, some bromeliads, but just see how completely engulfed this tree, and that's not even half of it. The rest is down here, all chopped up for firewood probably. We're now in the middle of habitat, and we have found so many orchids that I can't even begin to describe all of them. Up there is exactly what we came for. Lelia halbingeriana. And there's lots of flowers, but it's really hard to capture them from the forest floor. Fortunately for us, and rather unfortunately for the plant, there's quite a few of them that have fallen down. This is a pseudobulb that was cut from a fall quite recently, and we can still see the flowers. The labellum is quite closed, which leads me to believe that this is more Lelia oaxacana than halbingeriana. There was a small fracture on one of the branches, and the plant was so heavy that it just crumbled down into these clumps over here. And you can see how robust these pseudobulbs are, 2 leaves, and just how many pieces of this plant, which is just honestly quite amazing. The flower spikes from years before. We tried to relocate some of them, but to be honest, they might not survive too many years where we place them. It's more so in the hopes that if they develop flowers, they'll be able to spread them, which way they wouldn't be doing if they were on the forest floor. I think there's also Stanhopea over here. Yeah, growing on directly on the rock. Yeah, it's a stump, it's a tree stump, but it's a large Stanhopea. It could be Stanhopea tigrina or something similar.
Lelia halbingeriana is from the section Schomburgia, one of the largest species in the entire genus. It is most similar to Lelia superbiens, and it was confused as such for many decades, until Salazar described it as a new species in 2014. This area's density is at more than 2,000 individuals per square kilometer, a richness that is unbelievable. It is quite unfortunate that there isn't a single conservation project for the species, and that this is the first time habitat videos have been released. The future of Lelia halbingeriana remains uncertain. Large patches of land have already been converted for seasonal agriculture, a practice that yields only a few harvests before the soil loses its fertility, as it is the vegetation that holds most of the nutrients of the area. Despite this being one of Mexico's most extraordinary natural areas, there is minimal initiative to protect it. Local communities have very few alternatives for making a living, so government agencies and conservation groups must work together if there is any hope of protecting this natural beauty, unique to Oaxaca, unique to Mexico. We leave Cañada with mixed emotions. On one hand, we feel the urgency of protecting these remarkable orchids, knowing their survival is at risk. On the other, we're encouraged by the people we've met, individuals and families who've led us to hidden spots and share the stories of these species. Christian is a biologist that first reached out to us about this location, and after nearly a year of planning, we arrived to witness a thriving, if vulnerable, population of Lelia halbingeriana. And this should inspire us and others to do everything we can to safeguard these orchids and the irreplaceable ecosystems they call home. After leaving the Cañada, we venture south into more arid areas of Oaxaca, where the mountains tower high and fierce air currents can make survival challenging for many species. This region is known as the Mixteca, recognized for its striking landscape and unusual network of microhabitats, which host a density of endemic species. As we travel across the iron-rich red soils, we begin to see oaks, agaves, and other species crowding the horizon. We start seeing some orchids, such as Oncidium brachyandrum and Lelia furfuracea. And we were going to see something, perhaps even more extraordinary.
This is Artoraima erubescens, the only species from the monospecific genus Artoraima, and it is endemic to these cold oak deciduous forests of Oaxaca. As you can see, the inflorescence is quite dense, with many beautiful lilac flowers,
that are just very charming, very circular and quite flat as well. The labellum has very nice details, almost like a small flower on its own. The spike is medium-sized and the plant is quite peculiar. The rhizome extends quite a bit from pseudobulb to pseudobulb, and the roots can be quite long. We can often find them climbing these trees and also falling in, hoping to attach to a different tree and continue their climb. These flowers are under the special protection of the commissionary of the municipality of San Pedro. Their work has enabled these populations to stay relatively intact, and it is quite wonderful to see when people care about preserving their nature as they do in this community. As we continued deeper into the forest, we began seeing more diversity. Though fewer epiphytes than before, we encountered several fascinating terrestrial orchids from the subfamily Orchidoideae. While exploring, we came across a large fallen tree covered in Artorima orchids, which we set out to rescue. This is a unique view of the canopy and what species live here. Usually it's different from the ones that live on the main trunk, but with such dry conditions, it's the exact same, to be honest. Massive Artorima that lost its flower spike. At least we're here to help it get on top of another tree. And it's of course not the only one. We also found another very special species. Lastly, we headed north to an area near my grandfather's hometown. And although this region is heavily disturbed, there are still places where natural beauty and conservation efforts can coexist. At 2,200 meters above sea level, this dry, deciduous oak forest hosts only a few epiphytes. And before entering, we met with the ejidatarios, the community landowners, to secure permission and discuss the importance of safeguarding this unique habitat. Whilst logging does occur here, we were relieved to learn that they haven't engaged in illegal collection for the black market, showing respect for these rare plants in their land. We finally saw Lelia furfuracea in bloom, potentially one of the smallest members of this genus. But don't let its appearance deceive you. This is one of the toughest orchids out there. Its thick leaves, rugged bulbs, and stout flowers allow it to survive in very harsh conditions, enduring frosts, lack of rainfall, and intense sunlight. It isn't yet a high-profile conservation target, as it is fairly removed from urbanized areas where highest pressure is exerted. However, we should expand our research and continue working with this species, hoping to create a reserve for it one day, and also for all the other members of this genus known as the Lily of All Saints.